Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and definitely kind of following up and giving some more updates on the Canadian Football League and the CFL here. I know last week I talked about the Canadian Football League seeking some government intervention, some government assistance here, as they were seeking $30 million initially just to keep the season afloat here, but potentially up to $150 million if it happens that the 2020 CFL regular season playoffs and the Grey Cup doesn't happen here. And as my follow-up to Randy Ambrosi, who apparently was seeking government assistance back at the beginning of April here, but it wasn't until about a month later that the story came out here, and I figured that I'm not surprised here, but at the same time might be a little concerned here about the well-being of the league here, because you hear one hand where CFL, I mean, obviously it's not a league where if you own a team and it doesn't, it's not a money-making machine like the other major league sports here, and it definitely will always be a long distance second away from the NFL here, because the NFL, for example, they could afford to still play this season without fans in attendance here with this ongoing pandemic here, but it doesn't work the same with the CFL here because they don't have a massive TV contract. They don't get the worldwide exposure here because most of the revenue that the CFL makes is from ticket sales and fans going to the games and buying, concession and merchandise here. But it's sounding more and more like that the more likely scenario, based on what the commissioner is that the season is likely going to get cancelled here, because it seems to be a little bit of a stretch on if there's going to be a truncated season. Let's say the season started on Labor Day and maybe just play teams in your own division during the regular season, and then only have an East-West game during the Grey Cup here. But with all the still the social distancing and the restrictions here, that large gatherings and crowds, say at a sporting event, is definitely going to be the last thing that's going to be allowed. And a lot of the governments in Canada, especially on the provincial level here, that's like the last phase here. And I definitely think the CFL might be in jeopardy if they don't get a season in, but maybe on the other hand, they might actually still somehow get through this if they don't play this season here, because the league actually ultimately reported that they actually lost $10 to $20 million last season, and that's with some of the bigger leagues, bigger teams having more richer owners here. Because I hear that the Edmonton Eskimos, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 3 of the 9 teams in this league here, they're actually community owned. And I heard they barely made a profit here. I saw numbers from a couple seasons ago. I know it helped with Edmonton last season, or not this past season, but in 2018 here, that they made a profit here because they also hosted the Grey Cup, and it's usually a extra boost to the city and the team to host the Grey Cup here, because you get more ticket sales, especially season ticket holders wanting to at least get a seat to the Grey Cup and dream about their team being there. And I know this past season, the Calgary hosted the Grey Cup, and that was at the only time that the stadium was sold out at McMahon here. And you hear some of these teams barely break even or lose money here. I know that Toronto and Montreal and even BC here, despite having richer owners here, they definitely still want to make money too. And those bigger markets still seem to struggle to get more fans here. I know it's a slow rebuild here. I know David Braley, who owns the now just the BC Lions, has been trying to unload the team to someone else here as he's getting older, plus trying to lose money here. And it's the Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment that owns the Toronto Argonauts as well here. But they're still a big identity here, so they can absorb it. And then the fact that Montreal just got a new owner here, and he definitely is going to be worried about what's been going on here, given what's happened here. But I definitely don't see an issue too much with the CFL looking for government intervention here. I mean, no, this should be a time to maybe look at trying to change their business model so they're not as dependent on gate receipts here and slowly get more exposure. I know that when Randy Ambrosi took over as commissioner here, that he signed a partnership with the Football League in Mexico, and he was looking overseas there, and that's where you have more of these global players here. But because of these government restrictions here, that's why you're not going to have fans go to the games here, and there's just a lot of logistics still involved here on how, you know, you would potentially get games in and have teams practice. I know that I heard that Ontario, for example, recently eased restrictions on at least having professional teams practice here. But when you still are limiting gatherings here, it's kind of tough to have, because you easily would have 100 people when it comes to, you know, players, coaches, maybe scouts, and, you know, trainers all on the field during practice here. I mean, there's those other logistics. Plus, as well, you know, I mean, half the players in the, you know, CFL, you know, come from the U.S. and other countries now with the global, that, you know, you have the restrictions with the border, or at least with the CFL all being in Canada here, that, you know, you can have the players that come from overseas, they can quarantine for 14 days with the restrictions still in place here, and then stay, but still tricky stay in the bubble here. But, you know, there's just too many logistics and unknowns right now here. But I know the league, or the government, did come back and say to the CFL that they're not going to grant assistance yet until the players are involved, because I know that it's still in the initial stages, and I think eventually the government is going to have to, or, you know, give in a little. They'll think there'll still be a give or take here, and I still feel that we will still have a CFL. We will still have Calgary Stampeders, for eventually I'll still be going to Big Band to cheer on the games here, and then hopefully maybe the Atlantic Schooners, a team in Halifax or somewhere in the Maritimes, so we can have a coast-to-coast league here, because, I mean, this league has been around for over 100 years, and that's the one unique thing about the Grey Cup here is, you know, since I've been to a few of them already, it's nice to see fans from all over the country representing their team. I mean, I always go representing my colors wherever I am, but, you know, it's definitely one thing that's unique here, and it'd have to be a shame if you lose it here. I know that's still taxpayers' money here, but I like to keep playing the card that, well, you know, billions get spent on the CBC, unless people are consuming that. And I mean, Lombardi keeps seeming to get bailed out. How about we could throw this in here, not to get too political here, but the government spent $10.5 million on convicted terrorist Omar Carter. So, and then the $150 million that the CFL still is seeking, apparently it's given out that they're looking at over 2 years. I mean, yeah, $150 million would be a lot of money to you or me, but to the government here, that's not much here, and they still say it's still like $5 to the average taxpayer here, and, you know, I would have no problem. Because with the government, I mean, it's a business. It's the same with like any other business that, you know, well, because of you putting these restrictions in so we can try to, you know, contain this, you know, pandemic here, I'm losing money here, and I can't operate under normal circumstances here, and CFL is definitely no different here, and you gotta just look at, I mean, I definitely see the government's point that there needs to be a plan on how the players are going to get paid. I mean, it's not just, you know, here's the money, league, and they're going to take a run with it, but, I mean, there has to be more details going in on how the players will get paid, and also, you know, everybody else. I mean, like all the TV crew, the officials, you know, the, you know, members of the team that run the team in the offices or on the field. I mean, they need to stake in it too, and that's just like any other business that's seeking government intervention at this time right now is, but it's definitely a lot easier when it's just, you know, a regular business as opposed to like a professional sports organization here. And then it just, you know, it's still on one hand a slippery slope here, but hopefully I think there'll still be some kind of, you know, concession. But maybe the league in some way could maybe lose less money this year if they don't play because you're not, paying for all the travel and that. Because I don't think the league has the fiscal to be able to house teams in a hotel or some place here. I mean, it's a little more complicated, I think, with football, given how much bigger it is and the fact that just how the game's played and conducting team practice here. But I mean, this whole situation keeps evolving. But I mean, it'd definitely be sad and it'd be a shame if we ultimately lose the CFL, and this could be a thing of history here, like history. And I definitely don't want to be saying there's no more Calgary Stampeders and no more football here, but I also have to be prepared for the potential eventuality that this might come to be. And I mean, it still says volumes about the league, considering it's been around for almost 100 years. I know in the 1990s that the league was on shaky ground here, and they were able to get through that. I mean, I remember even there was a couple of Save Our Stamps campaign, and I remember there was a season ticket drive, I think after 1994. And this was back when we had our heyday, back when we had Doug Flutie in his prime year, and we still struggled to get season tickets, and we were able to get just as enough after Larry Rickman bailed. And we've had some stable ownership, and at least the Flames own the Calgary Stampeders in our case here. But it'd definitely be a shame if we lose the CFL, given how long the history is. And I think one of the reasons why, I mean, I didn't think it would ever warrant me to make a separate video on it. I mean, the NFL's king, and the CFL still is it's a different game, good professional league, and you get a lot of talent that come from various colleges that at least come here to maybe springboard themselves to go to the NFL. I mean, a lot of players that are in the NFL right now, they could still thank the CFL for getting them there. And I mean, I don't want to keep saying it's a developmental league, because there's some players that can do well in one league, not so in the other, and vice versa here. But the other spring leagues that seem to spring up, that, I mean, you had the USFL, and then you had the AAF. I know the XFL failed again because of this, but it's hard to say if it still would have lasted after this season here, just because, I mean, these spring leagues doesn't seem to do as well, because I think there's a potential that I think people in the States are footballed out. I mean, that's like saying, let's say we have a summer hockey league where it's played after the Stanley Cup Finals. The next week that league starts. It plays just in the summer here, and it goes in cities where they don't have an NHL team, and the fact that you don't get players, big players, or you might get cast-offs or older players, or players that are not good enough for trying to get back into the other leagues here. And that's kind of like my analogy here, but as much as we love hockey here in Canada, I like a little bit of a break in the summer here, and I like the off-season for news and that. And that's why I think these other spring leagues tend to fail here, because these spring leagues, you get players that either used to play in the NFL or trying to maybe launch themselves back in the NFL here, and then they're in cities that don't have a team or maybe have a team. But that's to say, getting back in the CFL here, it says volumes that the CFL has lasted this long in the country here. And the Grey Cup is like the Stanley Cup. It's had a rich history here, but they're still going to prepare for the eventuality here. But I do think there'll be some kind of common ground that it's just part of the negotiation process here. But hopefully the CFL can, still get through this, and we'll still have games in the future here. But this is just my follow-up from the CFL seeking some government intervention here. And there seems to be a little more details on how much they want this money for. And I mean, the league's definitely committed to, having more partnership with the, government of Canada. And then the fact that, there's these anti-violence and anti-bullying campaigns that the CFL always does, when players go out in the community and bring awareness to various organizations here. I mean, that's one way that the league still plans to, or I think maybe they're still, it's still up in the air, but hopefully we won't lose the CFL here. But I think that could still be a possibility here too because of this. But I mean, what do you think of all this? Hopefully it's not going to be just a distant memory here at the end of the day, but you just never know. But maybe once they give a better idea on how they're going to get the players involved, because the Players Association, or their union, they're definitely going to have to get a say in this now after the commissioner has done his part on, presenting this case to the government here. But if the government could spend billions on other things, hopefully they can spend some of it on here just to still have, a season here. Because, you don't have too many players and staff that are going to have to draw on other government services if there is no league. And the fact that, major cities in the summer here, for example, in my case, and I know many fans do the same thing as I do, is, sometimes plan their holidays around going to a game in the summer on holidays. And then while you're there, you take part in activities in the city while you're there. That definitely would be lost if there is no CFL anymore. But, it's my take. It's easy for me to say, as a sports fan, that, I would have no problem with some government intervention being put in to keep the league going, because it's these government restrictions that have, got this thing going where we are right now. And, also you've had some beautiful new stadiums built across the country in recent years that will just go hit derelict, and it's just all the other ripple effects here that could be potential if we don't have a CFL anymore here. But we know it's going to be a while before fans can come back here too, even after with treatments and the vaccine here. But that's going to be like that with just gatherings in general here. But I had to say, what your take on everything here, and what I followed up here from last week. And if you saw that video, I did share some my Grey Cup memories towards the end of that video here. Just hopefully I'll still get to make some more new Grey Cup memories in the future, but we need a CFL to continue on with that. But what do you say? As I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, all the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, hopefully still for many, many years to come. But we'll see as we go through this. I mostly talk Calgary sports here, but I also do personal vlogs, attempt at comedy, and I also share my experiences when I'm on the road or at a sporting event here. And assuming we ever get through this pandemic here, I'll get to engage in those activities again. But I have plenty of that on my channel right now, so if that sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you need to do just to make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. So as I say here, go Stamps go, and I'll see you in the next video. And thanks for everyone who's engaged and subscribed to me up to this point. And I just want to continue to keep growing on here, and I still want to continue to keep making content here. I know that despite the fact that I've been at home and spend more time at home here, I know that sometimes I'm not able to batch as many videos because I've actually still been busy working at home here. And this is still a hobby here, but I want to still see where this thing keeps going. But so I want to thank everyone who has keep engaging with my content up to this point here, and I try to get back to you as soon as I can if you say anything that's worth getting back to. But as I say, thanks for everything, and I'll see you in the next video.